Welcome back. Thanks for staying tuned to Your World Tonight on WION. Now, UK Prime Minister Theresa May has arrived in the United States on an official visit to the country. The two countries share a historically deep relationship. Ms. May will be the first foreign leader to be received by US President Donald Trump. But is this a new era of a strong transatlantic alliance, given that the UK will be leaving the European Union, or will it be a lot more difficult than anticipated? Our senior international correspondent Padma Rao has this report.
That if my father had been American and my mother British, instead of the other way around, I might have got here on my own.
They've been allies through 2 world wars and united in various global initiatives. It's for this and other reasons that former British Prime Minister Winston Churchill dubbed it a special relationship. The marriage between Britain and Europe to its east, however, was relatively short-lived, and a painful separation has been announced. UK Prime Minister Theresa May is now set to woo her country's old and steadfast western beau across the Atlantic Ocean all over again. And Washington has reciprocated. She is the first world leader to be received by US President Donald Trump.
It has become a little bit hackneyed and a bit cliched when we talk about the special relationship, and a bit tired because it's tied to a post-1945 world system that is changing pretty rapidly. The point here is it's been given a shot in the arm, a kind of a collagen injection, if you like, as that order begins to be reshaped into a different order. And I think that's the important thing. So the special relationship, seems relevant again in different circumstances. That's the first time that's happened in 70 years.
PM May's wish list is headed by a trade deal, one she hopes will fill the vacuum that Britain's separation from the EU will create. But the protectionist American president has put America first, and Brexit is still far away.
America first.
Its completion possibly even further delayed by the British Supreme Court's recent verdict. Negotiating future trade deals before leaving the European Union may sour the already stressed relationship with Brussels. Still, and as a special guest at a Republican retreat ahead of her White House meeting, May did the spadework.
It will take detailed work, but we welcome your openness to these discussions and hope we can make progress so that the new global Britain that emerges after Brexit is even better equipped to take its place confidently in the world.
The return of the prodigals into each other's arms holds global connotations too. US President Donald Trump has said several times that he views his country's military intervention in Iraq, Afghanistan and Syria as mistakes. The UK has always been Washington's partner in all such errors of judgment. Predictably, Ms. May agreed with President Trump, but in a rather ambivalent way. She warned against Iran and stressed that Syria remains a global challenge. Semantics or contrarian positions? Time will tell. After all, and as British playwright George Bernard Shaw put it wryly, Britain does perhaps have everything in common with America except the language. Padma Rao, WION.
All right, for more on that, we are joined by WION's London Bureau Chief, Mandy Clark. Mandy, thanks for joining us. Theresa May has signalled strong ties with the US under the Trump regime. How are the citizens in the United Kingdom viewing this visit?
With great interest and a bit of trepidation. They are worried that she might emulate a relationship that Blair and Bush had. And in the UK, that was seen as Blair was very much the lapdog of George W. Bush when he was in power. They don't want Britain to kowtow to the United States. They want her to have warm relations, but they want her to hold firm on issues like torture, on issues where the UK has a firm stand on the other side. So they want her to warm those relationships. Certainly they want a good trade deal, but they don't want to give too much away.
And what is May expecting out of this visit?
This is just an initial visit. It's a very short visit. She only has really an hour with the president, so not a lot of nitty-gritty is going to come out of it. They're very much likely going to talk about a future trade deal between the U.S. and the U.K., very informal talks on that. She welcomed that was one of Donald Trump's priorities. They may talk about his his stance on torture. Certainly, what Theresa May emphasized is the need to protect the NATO alliance. That's the Western military alliance. Donald Trump in the past has said he doesn't value it and he doesn't see other members putting as much money as the U.S. has. She has re-emphasized his call that other members have to do their part and put more money in. But her message to him will likely be, this alliance is essential for the security of the Western world, and she very much wants the U.S. to stay a part of it.
All right, Mandy Clark, thank you so much for that update. Now, staying with news from the United Kingdom, as Britain gets set to begin the Brexit process, it is looking to start early talks on trade deals with economically powerful countries, and increasingly, Britain sees India as an important trade partner, and it seems to go both ways, with many Indian startup companies are looking for opportunities in Britain despite Brexit. WION's Mandy Clark has the story.
20 delegates from India have come to the UK to see if they can expand their business in Britain.
It can be any manufacturing shop floor, but in this case it happens to be a pharmaceutical plant.
Raman Talwar is the chief executive of Simulanis, a virtual reality company that specializes in health and safety training.
It only takes them about 10 minutes of totally playing it as compared to reading it from a document which may take 50 hours, and they attain the same learning outcomes much faster.
Talwar says he's not worried about the Brexit effect.
The UK in its own is one of the world leaders really, and it is a center for excellence in the domain we're working in, so I think that will continue to be the way going forward as well.
But it's Britain who needs India. Last month, India's economy overtook Britain's briefly for the first time in 150 years, and that trend is likely going to continue. It means India is in a much more powerful position when it comes to negotiating with Britain.
It's certainly an opportunity for India to reset its relationship with the UK over matters which I know have concerned people in India a lot, including issues notably such as visas and migration. Now, quite how that all plays out, I think, is going to be an interesting test of the government's commitment to free trade, new relationships, and what a relationship with India will look like.
And these business leaders welcome closer ties with Britain.
Brexit, no Brexit, the world is worth it. UK is definitely a huge focus area for us.
That's a sentiment the UK warmly welcomes. Mandy Clark, WION, London.
Moving on, we head to France, where the final presidential run-up poll in the country is still some months away. But a newspaper report alleging corruption may queer forerunner Republican candidate Francois Fillon's pitch and advantage the extreme right wing. Our senior international correspondent Padma Rao tells us why.
The daggers are out and the furs flying thick and fast. A French newspaper has accused Francois Fillon, the Republican forerunner in France's final presidential runoff poll scheduled in spring 2017, of paying his Welsh-born wife Penelope Fillon an astounding salary for a job as his personal assistant. The only problem? The amount of US dollars $536,000 per year reportedly came from public funds.
Mais je voudrais vous dire que je ne trouve pas de mots pour dire mon dégoût devant le caractère abject de cette accusation. Je fais de la politique depuis plus de 30 ans, j'en connais les règles, j'ai le cuir épais, je savais qu'en me présentant à l'élection présidentielle, j'allais affronter toutes les calomnies. Mais pas celle-là. Pas celle qui consiste à attaquer ma femme pour m'atteindre.
French MPs are allowed to hire family as assistants, but Penelope Fillon has said several times herself that she has never been part of her husband's political work, preferring to raise their children at their country chateau instead. Yet, France's financial prosecutor is investigating the charge. Opinion polls show Fillon as a forerunner in the race to the country's top post so far. But far-right leader Marine Le Pen and banker-turned-socialist Emmanuel Macron are also making headway. But any scandal involving politicians and public money is bound to remind French voters of the United Kingdom and the United States. where the anger of the working classes led to Brexit and the US election victory of one of the most controversial presidents to enter the White House, Mr. Donald Trump. Padma Rao, WION.
Moving on, the US President Donald Trump has said that visa hopefuls from Muslim countries, including Pakistan, are likely to face extreme vetting. Trump made this comment in a televised interview where he said that citizens of some Muslim countries were responsible for spreading terror in the United States and the new regime would not permit them to enter. Earlier, a report hinting at a Muslim registry being mulled by the White House was met with a strong public backlash. Former US Secretary of State Madeleine Albright tweeted that despite being a Christian, she would register in any Muslim registry to show her solidarity. The White House has denied the report. Madeleine Albright, the former US Secretary of State, said, and I quote, "I was raised Catholic, became Episcopalian and found later that my family was Jewish. I stand ready to register as Muslim in solidarity," unquote. We are slipping into a short break now. More news and updates continue on the other side. Stay tuned to WION.
Can they run the head-to-head graphics in the rundown? Yeah. You can take the match visuals also. And he's putting Kal ke Federer ke bhi if you want to use.
Welcome back to WION World is One News. Now sports news. The headline writers have their day. It will be a Rafael Nadal-Roger Federer final at the Australian Open after Nadal beat Grigor Dimitrov in marathon 5-setter in 4 hours and 56 minutes. Nadal, the 2009 champion, looked in top gear as he started the semi-final in whirlwind fashion, breaking Dimitrov en route to taking the first set 6-3. Dimitrov broke Nadal early in the second and the set saw 5 breaks of serve as he came back from 3-5 down before Dimitrov broke again to win 7-5. The third set went on to serve, forcing a tiebreak which Nadal clinched at 7-5. The fourth set saw neither player conceding an inch as Dimitrov showed the promise that has led many to classify him as a future Grand Slam winner in 2014. He won a tiebreaker to send the match into a decider, meaning the 2017 Australian Open champion would have played 5 sets in the semis. And the stage is also set for Nadal and the Swiss maestro as they face off in the final on Sunday. Nadal leads Federer 9-2 in Grand Slam matches. Federer never won against Nadal at the Australian Open and French Open. The Spaniard leads 23-11 overall. Aisha Sindhu joins us for more on this from the newsroom. Aisha, how momentous is this win for Rafael Nadal?
Oh, Shelja, I don't even know where to start. This is a momentous day for tennis because not only is Rafael Nadal back into a Grand Slam final, it's also Roger Federer waiting for him at the other end. And you know, it's nostalgic almost for tennis fans because it takes you back to the early 2000s when the two of them put up this iconic rivalry that's sort of defined tennis for people who started watching in the late 90s and early 2000s. And just to put it in a little bit of perspective for you, every single men's Grand Slam final in the last 2 years has featured either Novak Djokovic or Andy Murray, the world number 1 and 2. And neither of them is there. It's world number 17, and I don't even know what Nadal's world ranking is right now. So a momentous day for tennis and for the revival really of the old guns who are back in action, and in what a fantastic way.
Right, and it is certainly going to be a Federer versus Nadal final on the cards. This has really come as a huge surprise, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Again, because the top two, and then, you know, slowly we saw the sort of cookie sort of crumble, all these seeds dropping out progressively through the tournament, and the two most unlikely heroes making their way forward match after match. Federer said that in his post-match semi-final conference, and he said that, you know, I didn't even want to answer questions about the final because it just didn't seem like a reality. And here you have the two of them in contention for a final, for a Grand Slam title. Remember, just to put this in perspective also, he is this Spaniard Nadal that is facing Federer in the finals for the first time since the French Open 2011. That was 6 years ago.
All right, Aisha Sindhu, thank you so much for that update. We will keep track of that match. But now, this Saturday will mark the beginning of the Chinese Lunar New Year. The celebrations of the festive season has triggered the largest human migration in the world. It is during this time that millions travel back to their homes to spend time with their loved ones. So how is China coping with the high number of travelers and celebrating this holiday season? Here's a report.
It's that time of the year again in China. Millions have flocked to train stations carrying bundles of joy for their friends and families, hoping to catch a train to celebrate China's biggest holiday. Across China, people are celebrating the Lunar New Year, which marks the beginning of spring. As per the Chinese zodiac system, each year is assigned an animal, and this time around it is the year of the rooster. New Year is the time for families spread across China to come together. China experiences the largest human migration in the world during the festivities, called Chunyun. Chinese transportation authorities project to make at least 3 billion trips this year, ferrying migrants from the biggest of the cities to the most remote parts of China. Passengers line up outside stations in freezing temperatures, hoping to grab a seat on a train which will take them home. But the high volumes of passengers is as much of a task for station managers, which is why the authorities are making use of modern technology to ease the traveling experience for the passengers. Almost 70% of the ticket sales happened online this year. Further, facial recognition technology was deployed for the first time during passenger check-in. This is also the time when markets spring up across streets, selling Lunar Year decorations and gifts. The hot selling items this year are decorations featuring the rooster to figures of superheroes, state leaders, and even US President Donald Trump. Now, while Trump may not be able to strike a chord with the masses, for now, the Trump rooster is proving to be popular with the shoppers. Aditya Dhunna for WION.
And with that, it is a wrap on this edition of Your World Tonight. For more news and updates, you can log on to our digital, mobile and social media platforms. Aisha Sindhu joins you with Gravitas on the other side of a short break. Thanks for watching.